Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. Based on the feedback that I got, it seems like Dawn of War 2 might be something worth exploring. People seem to be fairly intrigued by it, so I'll bring you a few more and see exactly what happens. Again, this will be mostly in the instructional style. The stuff that I'm looking to do in future would involve the casting of higher level replays. So, in this case, I did a wonderful live commentary of this, and then Dawn of War 2, being the beta that it is, decided to crash my entire machine. So I lost it all. You might notice some very odd mouse movements because all of this was frapsed, and obviously I was pointing to various things. I don't know what those things are anymore, so please, my apologies for that, but do try and ignore some of the more bizarre mouse movements going on here. Whatever the case, I'm up against a Space Marine player, which is my favorite matchup because me being a particularly ardent Chaos fanboy, I like to kill the servants of the false emperor. It's just what I like to do. It's a cool hobby to have. I've taken the Plague Champion out once again because I've been having an awful lot of success with him, and I've learned his various tricks, or at least to a very basic level, which I haven't really done so much with the other champions. So learning which champions do what is fairly critical to success in this game because the champion mechanic is very different from stuff like StarCraft 2. Starting off with that champion unit really does make an awful lot of difference, and then how you customize the champion, how you manage to level up the champion, and then later on, how you maybe change the champion around to suit different situations by changing his war gear out, is fairly critical to success. Anyway, my opponent's got himself a Force Commander, which is pretty much the in-your-face, brutal, I'm going to kill you horribly kind of champion, and I'm getting the hell away from him, because I've just got a Heretic squad up there. He has a Tactical Marine squad plus a Force Commander, which will result in my Heretics dying horribly. Don't want anywhere near that, but I did manage to grab the point, and I now know where he is. That's the critical thing. So now that I know where the majority of his forces are, I can feel safe advancing along the right flank, trying to secure that, and maybe even take out his power node and grab, of course, the central power node for good measure as well. Now, this kind of principle applies to games like StarCraft 2 as well, about knowing where your opponent's forces actually are. However, in StarCraft 2, your opponent's forces are really only going to be in one of a few places. They're going to be at the base, or they're going to be on the way to your base, or they're going to be sitting at one of the expansions. Generally speaking, they won't be holding anywhere else. Yeah? And by sitting at base, I also mean things like deploying in such a way that it blocks off access to the base and things like that. So either they're defending or attacking. In this game, they could be in several different places, and flashpoints tend to occur in between Requisition, Victory, and Power nodes. You can see that right here, there's going to be a flashpoint here because I've decided to engage on one of his power nodes, and I suspected that, yes, they would probably go in for me. Now, he does have a tactical squad plus his Force Commander. The Force Commander on his own will beat the Plague Champion without upgrades. And you see I'm getting the Bile Spear upgrade, which I have right there, which is effectively a very, very nasty snot flamethrower. And whatever the case, I need to get the hell out of there because I don't want to lose him right there. I've got 2 squads of Heretics in there, though, and I also have fire support from this squad of Chaos Space Marines that I've also given the Eternal War upgrade to, which is a nice little static stats upgrade. Very, very effective indeed. Makes them, as far as I'm aware, a little bit better than an unupgraded Space Marine tactical squad. Now, obviously, I'm taking high casualties here, but my priority is, can I take out his tactical squad? Even if I lose a Heretic squad, taking a tactical squad is way worth it. And you see, I've got him well locked down there. Now, my Heretics are getting the hell out of there as quickly as possible. Try and lock down with the other squad as well. But unfortunately, a Scout squad comes in from the side with shotguns that is able to annihilate my Heretic squad. However, I took his tactical squad. So, to me, that seems absolutely worthwhile. Now, in a game like this, again, another comparison to StarCraft 2 because it's a good reference point for a lot of people, efficiency matters a bit more. Because your squads can gain experience and level up, and because Requisition comes in at a fairly fixed rate, and map control is so critical, losing squads is by far the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. It's a very, very bad thing to do. And indeed, learning when to press that ever-important X button and retreat is critical as well, because retreating has its downsides. You lose control of your squad as it sprints back to your command center, and you give up map control in the process. So if you're retreating retreating too much, then you end up lagging way behind. Again, kind of like Dota. You know, think about Dota, League of Legends, Heroes of New Earth, and things like that. That game's also an awful lot about learning when to retreat and when not to retreat. If you retreat too much, you end up lagging behind in terms of experience and money. If you don't retreat enough, then you end up dying. So that ends up feeding the opposing team, which is the same as this as well. If you end up dying, you give your opponent power. And it's not something you can really see on the casting UI, which is kind of annoying, but every race has some kind of powers that they can use. Tactical abilities that require you to charge up a power meter, which is usually gotten by killing a bunch of dudes. So if I'm able to kill a bunch of dudes, I can get some Chaos Worship power, and I can unleash some nasty things like the Noxious Cloud, which you will see in this particular game as an extremely effective ability. Now, engagement right here is looking a little bit more in my favor, although I don't know, I'm still not entirely happy with it just because of the presence of that Space Marine squad. That's actually a Devastator squad up there, but because he didn't deploy it properly, he's now in an awful lot of trouble. He's deploying right there, and he's firing on my Plague Champion as opposed to firing on my Heretics. I would have personally fired on the Heretics, but he has forced my Plague Champion back. Now, the question is, can I get in there and do big damage to the Devastator squad, maybe even take it out while his Force Commander is there? I use the Detonation ability to blow up one of my Heretics to see if I could suppress the Force Commander long enough. And as it turns out, no, I was not able to do that. So he's also got defenses over here on his right flank, because he doesn't want to be attacked again on the right flank. I demonstrated that he was vulnerable there, so he's put that Devastator squad in there. But bear in mind his force composition right now. He really lacks mobility. Seriously lacks mobility. He has 2 Devastator Marine squads, which are those deployable heavy weapons. And yeah, they're really, really powerful, and they can defend points. But they are vulnerable because they are not very mobile. So I can exploit that and do all sorts of things in order to exploit, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, right now, I am falling behind as a result of losing out on those points, but I'm already ahead anyway, because I held 2 victory points for much longer than my opponent did, and I'm also rolling out my Tier 2 technology upgrade. Those of you who are a little bit concerned that you might not see the higher tech units, oh, you will. You will, don't worry. I'll be deploying them in this particular game, and you will see just how effective they can really be. Deciding on when you decide to tech up to level 2 is fairly important, as opposed to also taking up to level 3. Now, when you decide to do it, really depends on the battlefield situation. Are you feeling like you're in control? Do you feel like you've got enough units on the field to adequately hold your assets? Then, yeah, okay, you might want to decide to tech up then. Because while you're teching up, you can't build any more units, so just bear that in mind. Also, it's a fairly significant resource investment. In this case, he's making a fairly critical mistake going forward with his scout squad straight into the line of fire of my Plague Champion. Scouts and lightly armored units are very vulnerable to flame-type weapons. Even though the Bile Spewer doesn't look like a flamer, it's technically a flamer. That is its effect. It is a large area of effect spray weapon that can do huge amounts of damage to lightly armored targets. It's also very good against stationary targets, as you can see right there. And I managed to suppress and flank around and kill that Devastator squad. Again, heavy weapon squads without support kind of suck, although he did manage to knock my Plague Champion out, so hey, it wasn't that bad. But losing that Devastator squad, in my opinion, is worse than him knocking my Plague Champion out. Now, I'll have to use Requisition to bring him back. However, now I'm going to start rolling out the Tier 2 technology, because you can see down the bottom of the screen, I've got the Roman numerals 2. That means that I have Tier 2. I've got this Chaos Space Marine squad that's been alive for quite some time with the Eternal War upgrade, and I'm going to upgrade it so that it gains the ability Inferno Bolts. Inferno Bolts are basically like plasma guns. They are really great against heavily armored targets, which means that they are boss against Space Marines. Absolutely fantastic. Now, up there, he's got a Force Commander that I've already taken down to about 60% health, and he has a Flame Weapon Tactical Squad. Useless. Again, he upgraded that for one specific reason, so that he actually had some way of counteracting the Heretics I've been using. However, I'm now going to dedicate myself to some heavily armored units, and I can cut my way through these guys like no one's business. Big, heavy plasma fire, battering my way through the armor of the Force Commander, which is what I'm really fixating on here. And bear in mind, you know, there's a couple of shots going off at the other side, because squads in this game can actually fire at multiple targets. That's just how they work. That's how the AI can work. But if you want to target fire, you can do that. So I'm focusing now on the Force Commander. I want to bring him down. Oh, look, another Scout Squad, which is now going to get covered in snot. There we go. Use the Plague, folks. Use the Plague. Scout Squad is going to go down incredibly fast. And now, what he really should have done right now is retreated. He should have pressed that X button immediately. And the fact that he hasn't done it, Well, that means your tactical squad is about to get the crap beaten out of it. It's as simple as that. Flanking around the side to make sure he has absolutely no way of escaping. Even if he does decide to try and run away, he's going to get cut down as he goes. And a free tactical squad. Tactical squads are so expensive. Losing a tactical squad is so bad. Such a critically bad thing to do in this particular game. So just bear that in mind. It is much better to concede a point than concede a squad in defense of a point. Most of the time. You know, sometimes maybe if you're right at the end game and you're very close to winning, it might be worth sacrificing a squad just to keep a hold of a point. But at this stage of the game where everything is still to play for, absolutely not. Especially not a tactical marine squad. Very pricey. Don't want to be doing that at all. Now, once again, we're in a situation where we're being hit by the machine gun, but let's employ some Call of Duty 2 tactics, folks. We're going to flank the machine gun from the right. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Come around the side on that heavy bolter. Out of it, well, I'm inside its arc of fire, but it's too busy shooting at my Space Marines in cover to really notice that I've brought along my Plague Champion, covered them in snot, and they are the hell out of there. In the meantime, I've got my Heretic squad building a shrine to Nurgle right here, which is one of the very few buildings you can actually construct in the middle of the battle, and that will give area of effect suppression on the target, and also give me a little bit of healing. Now, let's show you one of these powers in action. You might have seen it in the previous video against the Orcs. I'm going to do it again. This is one of my personal favorites. It is a controllable noxious gas cloud that does large area of effect damage to anything within it. Much more effective against groups of units than against the Force Commander right there, but I wanted to try and give my Plague Champion the edge so that he could survive, I would think, and try and force that Force Commander backwards. Now, if that Force Commander had not had that Noxious Cloud on him, it's possible that he might have gone forward and engaged my Chaos Space Marine squad directly, and that might have been very messy because he has some pretty nasty upgrades, and he's quite difficult to kill. Now, you wanted to see some Tier 2 units. Welcome to the Dreadnought, folks, and I'm going to dedicate this Dreadnought to Khorne, which will give him double power claws. Incredibly powerful in melee. One of the most powerful melee creatures that you can get at this level of the game. He lacks ranged firepower, and is of course vulnerable to being hit by anti-vehicle fire, but in this case, as you will notice, those two Devastator squads are not upgraded with anti-vehicle weapons. Indeed, I don't believe they can get them, because he's still stuck on Tier 1 tech, which means in 3 hits, I'm going to annihilate that heavy weapon squad from the side. Now, using my Heretics as a screen, because, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, to absorb the fire as he goes in, I'm able to take them out by hitting them with Inferno Bolts from the flank, and I now have direct control over this area, and I've cut my way up his left flank, and he's now in an awful lot of trouble, because that was his main power node. Now, he's only just started his upgrade right now, but he's going to be starved in terms of power. He only has one other power node on the field, and it's not very well upgraded at all, so he is not going to be able to put out anything advanced. Now, my fear at this point in the game is that if he'd actually teched up earlier, he's going to deploy a Dreadnought. And if he gets a Dreadnought out, Space Marine Dreadnoughts are really nasty, arguably even nastier than Chaos Space Marine Dreadnoughts. They are not pleasant. Trust me, folks, they really are not. So I brought out a Havoc's heavy weapon squad, and what I can do with this is I can use the default heavy bolter, or I can upgrade it. And in this case, I'm going to upgrade it to Tzeentch. I'm going to dedicate to Tzeentch, which gives me a las cannon. Las cannon, one of the most powerful anti-vehicle weapons, if not the most powerful anti-vehicle weapon in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. It is a very slow refire rate laser that fires an extremely powerful bolt, designed for taking out high-value, tough targets. Think about it as the, well, I wouldn't even call it a Barrett 50 caliber of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, although it can be used like that. It's like a Barrett 50 caliber mixed in with the most advanced railgun you can possibly think of, with a little bit of nice laser flash in there for good measure. It kills high-value targets dead. It just doesn't kill an awful lot of them. It's as simple as that. Now, I have a very potent force right here, and I'm not entirely convinced he's going to be able to do anything. You can see he doesn't have much on the field right now. He's flanked around my right flank and is trying to take a few units back, but I do have my Plague Champion, and I also have a group of Heretics to try and engage him with. I believe they're also level 2, makes him a little bit tougher. He's broke out the Thunderhammer right there, which is a very powerful, heavy-hitting, slow melee weapon. Very good against large groups of units, but there's no way he can stand there. He knows it, so he's getting the hell out of there. Doesn't want to stand in the snot, and my Plague Champion is not having any of it. Again, bear in mind that this game is all about map control and moving in formation, yeah? quickly switching between hotkeyed units. The game is specifically designed to be played that way. Every unit that comes out is automatically hotkeyed, although yes, I believe you can rebind them to your desires. Right now, he's only got a Devastator Marine squad. That's bad. That's really, really bad. I think he's finally got his Tech 2 upgrade, but I don't even think he's got a missile launcher or last cannon or anything available there to take on my Dreadnought, and I think you will find out just what happens if you go too heavily into those immobile heavy weapon squads. They're very, very popular amongst a lot of new players. I've noticed, hell, they were popular with me for a while. And I'm still a new player, but I've played quite a bit of this over the last couple of weeks, and I do have quite the background in Dawn of War, especially the original Dawn of War. I was actually a very highly ranked beta tester for it. I used to play with one of the now designers who was involved in this. So, yeah, we played an awful lot of Dawn of War, but Dawn of War 2 has changed things around quite significantly, less about the base building and teching, less of a traditional RTS, and more about small squad tactics. Now, in regards to being sort of baited into using these heavy weapon squads, it is very cool to be able to deploy something and then just annihilate stuff with it. But look at that. This is what happens when you try and do that against the Dreadnought. Dreadnought cares not for your flippantry, folks. Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne, and no, you can't take him out with that either. He's not having any of it. I've actually activated the Berserk ability right there, which unfortunately has a tendency of getting me killed. Yeah, the Berserk ability causes him to go and attack whatever he feels like, which can also include your guys. Yeah, not good, not good. I've already lost one, and by the looks of it, I'm going to lose after he's done his little dance. He's a little bit confused right now, poor Ben. And then he's going to take out another one of my units. I want to get the hell out of there. Now, I was able to take down that champion. He immediately resurrected it, going straight for my last cannon squad, but this was, again, a fairly critical mistake. He resurrected it straight away. He wasn't able to do anything with it, because, again, my Dreadnought is still there, and he doesn't have anything he can actually kill it with, so why even bother? In the meantime, I'm multitasking a little bit and taking over a few more points, and this is a game about multitasking, but it's about multitasking a small number of units, yeah? So, it's not as daunting as it first appears. It really is more about tactics than quick finger work and APM, things like that. And I think that that's something a lot of people will actually get quite a bit out of. And there you go, folks. You can see he's surrendered right there. No problems whatsoever. And that was a fairly decisive win, I feel. And hopefully that demonstrates, again, how you should really sort of approach the lower level of play in something like Dawn of War 2 and make deliberate use of things like the terrain, things like the position of your squads, and while you are battling on one front, make sure that you're attacking an exposed flank on the other, because if somebody commits to one particular area, then because of the limited amount of units you can have on the field, and the fact that building defensive structures is almost non-existent in this game, not quite non-existent, but almost, you can go and attack that flank, so don't be scared to do that. My name's been Totalbiscuit. That's been another look at Dawn of War 2 Retribution. I will bring you some more videos over the coming days, and I will see you next time.